Thank you. Now some questions from our audience, which may provide an opportunity for you both to repeat some of your main points. The question first, we will begin with Susan. Why are people talking about Proposition 13 that passed in 1978? And what is the comparison to this Proposition 15?
Well, Proposition 13 passed in 1978 because property tax assessments were going up with market value, and property tax rates in California averaged 2.67%. We've seen property rise in our own time. Imagine having to pay 2.67% of the market value of your home every year as a condition of keeping it. Well, people couldn't do it. Whether they were businesses or they were individuals in homes, they couldn't do it. And as a result, the legislature let it slide and didn't take action, and Prop 13 got over 1 million signatures, and the voters passed it by nearly 2/3. And that's what happened then, and we're in a similar situation now, where if we were to lose Prop 13 and people were taxed on their market value, it would be devastating.
Lenny?
Respond on that same one, yes. Business even opposed Prop 13 in 1978 because they thought that they would be the ones who would receive being asked to make up the huge losses that were brought. The speaker just spoke as if residential and people were going to be affected. That is nothing furthest thing from the truth. The fact is that people have been paying new taxes, fees, and all kinds of ways that they've been nickel-dimed in this period because big corporations and huge property owners are paying 1978 or 1985 values. It makes no sense. It's actually bad for business. It's anti-competitive. It's very bad for land use in a state that needs more housing. This is not, this is correcting, I could say, improving Prop 13 by correcting the huge flaw that went 2/3 of it to business, commercial, industrial property.
Okay, Lenny, we begin this one with you. What groups and organizations support Proposition 15? And I'll be asking Susan the other side.
Okay, the League of Women Voters, the California PTA, a number of labor unions, the Board of Mayor Darrell Steinberg, presidential candidate Joe Biden, Attorney General and Vice President candidate Kamala Harris, the mayors of Los Angeles, San Francisco, Oakland, the Santa Clara Board of Supervisors, many local governments, about 1,000 local officials, and numerous community organizations. I will cede my 30 seconds. We have massive, broad community support from all kinds of elected officials, from all kinds of community organizations.
And Susan, what organizations or groups oppose Prop 15?
Well, the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association opposes it. The California Assessors Association opposes it. The California Business Roundtable opposes it. There is a long list of business organizations. Essentially, everyone who is going to have to pay higher taxes or pay higher prices opposes it. And people who will spend the tax money are in support of it. It's pretty simple.
This one for you, Susan. How would Proposition 15 affect local small businesses?
Well, local small businesses that are in a space where they own the space and they run the business and they're worth less than $3 million, they will not be reassessed. But if they rent their space, they will be paying the higher property taxes that are put on the owners. And it's easy to say that the leases will be renegotiated and it won't be an issue. It's difficult to do that. Commercial property is in a world of hurt right now, as businesses have been shut down for months and have not been able to pay rent to the landlords, and the landlords are in trouble, and the real estate investment trusts are going to be in trouble, and we could have a financial rolling disaster as each of these groups can't pay its bills because of COVID closing the business at the front door. And raising property taxes in this environment is extraordinarily reckless for the state budget, for the taxpayers, for the businesses, for the people looking for work.
Lenny?
So she misstated the exemption under $3 million is not necessarily, it's for property owners, not necessarily those who have to work in their own business and own their own business. And those businesses are where a very large number of small businesses are. We've looked at a number of local businesses that people have cared about, including in Sacramento, where they said we're concerned. Fact is, many properties are assessed close to market value. With regard to, I'm blanking on that second point, but all the business organization, when they talk about prices, that's definitely not happening. The prices, if you go to a store, one place or another, those prices are online. The property tax has nothing to do with prices. This is not going to be passed on. It goes on to wealthy investors and large landowners.
Lenny, this might be another chance for you to make those points, but one of the questions we have here is, if Proposition 15 passes, what buckets would the tax money go into? Would it go exactly where the proposition promises it to go? Classrooms, fire, libraries, counties, and cities?
Absolutely. It's a property tax. One of the issues people have complained ever since Prop 13 about property tax allocation, and the legislature comes in and tries to do something about it. But the fact is that we're not changing the property tax allocation. Proposition 1A, put together by the cities and counties, guarantees the money cannot be shifted away. It cannot be taken by Sacramento. It goes to cities, counties, and special districts, very important for fire districts and water districts. And the school money is shared because poor rural counties get their fair share of school money. With regard to one other point that was made earlier, this is phased in. The legislature, the assessors, the Board of Equalization, who will do enforcement of the things the assessors can't do, will have a task force, the time to phase this in over time. If the economy is not doing well, the legislature will say, no, we're not going to phase this in. But you can be pretty sure they're going to look at these very big properties and say, Disney can pay, Apple can pay, Intel can pay. We're phasing it in for them, and we can wait for others.
Susan?
Well, that's just a confession that the thing doesn't work. It already needs the legislature to get in there and do fixes. It already needs a phase in and an exit door. It doesn't work. It is a huge tax on California businesses. People work for businesses. They shop at businesses. Of course, the prices will go up. Of course, Disney will be hurt by it. Of course, Chevron will charge more for gasoline. Of course they will.
Susan?
Also, I should say that the money goes 60% to local governments, 40% to school districts. It really is needed for pensions, for the overpromised pensions that our local governments have signed contracts that are binding on them. And they are getting bills from CalPERS and CalSTRS, and they are having to pay enormous pension bills. And that is what is driving this endless need for tax increases.
Okay, well, I think we've exhausted our questions, and we can now move to some closing statements. It's only 1 minute, but 1 minute can be a long time for you to address any of the things you felt were left out so far and make your case.
Well, there's a ridiculous statement made that the legislature gets to implement.
Wait, Lenny, you'll have a chance. We're going to start with Susan.
We're starting with Susan. Okay.
For closing, sorry. Go ahead, Susan.
This is my 1 minute closing statement.
Yes, thank you.
I would just like to say that California has always had a unified property tax role. It has never taxed property differently based on how it was used. Businesses that are rental homes can be paying income tax on the rent. Businesses pay lots of different taxes in their businesses and generate different kinds of revenue. hotel taxes, sales taxes, other types of taxes for commercial property. To raise property taxes sharply from what they currently are is a tremendous burden on California businesses. This is a catastrophic time to do something like that. We do not know what these businesses are valued at. What's the value of a restaurant? What's the value of a hotel? What's the value of an office building? There will be endless appeals. There will be endless litigation. This will be very expensive for counties that will not be receiving any revenue. As the Legislative Analyst's Office has shown, that not all of them will receive revenue. Some will lose revenue, and this will be very expensive for them. So I urge your no vote, although I understand you've already endorsed it.
You're talking to the audience of the Lamb Park Community Association. Lenny, your closing statement.
Yeah, every place in the country does this virtually. It is easy, it's not a difficult task, but the measure is very sensible because it was ridiculous to say the legislature should have no role. After Prop 13, the legislature had to do contortions to make it work. We wrote in very carefully, it's good government, and they can say, oh, the legislature should have no role. We wrote in very carefully a phase-in, a timing, a group of people getting together and making the system work. This is a win-win-win for California. It's good for local government. It's good for every resident who's put upon by local taxes and fees. It's good for businesses who will be operating on a level playing field. It's good for land use and the environment because they hold vacant land off. I know that's a difficult concept, but it has many, many beneficial effects far beyond the fact of making the system equitable and curing the hugest hole in the state's tax system.